Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Sunday show. As today we are on the October 1988 magazine review. So it does look like we did skip a couple of months. I believe the last one we looked at was July of 88, if I'm not mistaken. And who was that? I think Macho Man was on the last magazine we looked at for July of 88. So, again, missing a couple months in between, not a huge deal. And, shoot, man, looks like the 88 magazines are actually some of the best years. This magazine cover is freaking awesome. And anything that has Hogan on the cover is it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So, what is going to be expected inside of this magazine? Hogan takes on the world. Hulkster faces deadly new threats. Powers of pain. Can the Bolsheviks stop them? I don't remember that at all. Powers of pain versus the Bolsheviks. But let's see what that matchup entails inside. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, tough guy tells all. Big boss man cruelty from Cobb County. What is mine? Steel attempts an explanation. And what does this say up here? In this issue, exclusive pictures, Hulk Hogan and Savage workout. Bad news speaks out. A boss man's victims try to speak out. Oh, hell. So I like this. Obviously in the 90s, right? What was big going on in the 1990s? You had Nails, right? And Nails, the whole issue in the 1990s was Nails was an inmate and Big Boss Man was like this cruel prison guard. And that was supposed to be like this whole ordeal, this big gimmick deal. That Nails was supposed to be a newly released inmate and he was gonna come back and seek vengeance on Big Boss Man. And kind of looking at this magazine and now they're talking about how some of Big Boss Man's victims are speaking out. I'm kind of interested to see how this is going to play out. So I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic to kind of read out or at least look at some of those clips about Big Boss Man's victims. So that should be pretty amazing. You know, the more and more magazines I go through, I don't know. I don't know if, like, some of the other non-WWF magazines, I don't know, like, you know, W or NWA magazines, stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to pick up any of that stuff, but maybe some programs here and there I might pick up. Some of, like, the Superstar type magazines, I might pick stuff up like this right here, because, you know, this is pretty incredible. And I know at certain levels, at certain points, I am going to stop the WWF the Magazine because there's only like a certain era that I'm collecting. Like up to like maybe 96, 97 maybe. I definitely know that once they change this logo over, I'm pretty much done. I think around 96 or 97, maybe 95. I know that the magazines start issuing like little trading cards. Now they're perforated trading cards. Once you pull out the trading cards, you got the little, you know, perforated trading cards where you peel them apart, which I hate, but I definitely want to get the magazines or get all the magazines that have the trading cards inside. And I think that was 95, if I'm not mistaken, 95, 96. So I might go a year or two past that. But once you're talking like 99, 2000, I'm probably not interested in going that far. I only probably watched wrestling up until about 97, maybe early 98. And that's why I'm not really interested in really going past a time frame where, because it's not me, right? It's not an era that I was watching, so I have no idea what was going on in WWF or WWE past that time frame. Now, reading these magazines, it could really, update me about the coming and going of wrestling during that time period, sure, but at the same time, I really lost interest in wrestling at that point because it really wasn't wrestling to me anymore. It was more drama. It was like a soap opera, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I kind of gave up on wrestling in the later half of the 90s. Yes, I became a huge fan of baseball, and baseball became my new sport of interest, but that's a poor excuse because in the early 90s, basketball. I mean, the Bulls were winning the NBA Finals every year, right? So, I mean, we were all basketball obsessed. So, you can't really say that, hey, you became a baseball fan, so you stopped loving wrestling. That's a piss poor excuse. Because I was still watching wrestling vividly, actively, while still watching, basketball every week or every day, every couple days. Because basketball only aired like what, every 2-3 days sometimes. But let's be honest, with baseball, man, that really was like a full-time job trying to watch that. I mean, baseball is an everyday thing, so. On the mat with the rockers. I finally got my AWA Remco rockers, Midnight Rockers. Man, I had like almost the complete AWA Remco loose collection for like ever, but I didn't have the freaking rockers, and I only got those guys within like the last few months. Like I had Shawn Michaels probably a few months ago, and I just recently picked up Amari Jannetty probably a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, his right arm, I believe, was broken off, so I did a buy it now on it. I got it for less than $100, and if I had gotten, a pretty good condition Marty Jannetty, I probably would pay twice the price. A good condition, tight joints, probably $200-$300. Flimsy waist, flimsy arms, and all that. Probably would have paid like $150+. So I'm like, nah, forget that. I will take the one with the broken arm and pay around $60-$75 for it, whatever it was I paid for it. I'm like, I'm good with that. Throw on his shirt accessory. Throw some tape on it. You don't even notice. So I'm good with that, with what I have. And when you look at him right there on display, you don't even notice it, right? So so excited to finally get that piece and really kind of complete, the AWA Remcos. So, and of course, I just got Doug Summers recently. I had the carded figure, but I never had a loose one. So finally, the loose figures are complete. And I mean, I pretty much had all of the carded figures minus Matt Mania's. But I just been getting some more additional carded figures, some variants that I didn't have before, in preparation for my new Tuesday show when the LJNs are complete. I'm gonna move on to the Remcos, so I'm trying to make those videos as complete as possible, right? Got Terry Taylor, Red Rooster. I don't know, I was never a fan of Red Rooster. I know Terry Taylor is supposed to be like one of the most athletic guys, one of the most athletic wrestlers. I don't know what it was. When I was a kid, and even today, still looking at him, as a kid, I always got him confused with Greg Valentine. When I look at him, even looking at him in this picture, I mean, I know Terry Taylor compared to Greg Valentine. I could tell them apart from a block away, but for whatever reason, like, they just look very similar to me. They just have a very similar look, and And I think as a kid, I even though I knew them separately, they still I still got confused from time to time. So that always bothered me. And his gimmick with the rooster and him, the way that he used to sit there and squawk in the ring, man, I'm like, you do know that you're not really a rooster, right? Like, I just think he just overplayed his gimmick too much. Like, there's some gimmicks that just work really well. Like, I think The Undertaker, man, like him putting his opponents in body bags were just so much fun. I think the $1 Million Man, playing off the millionaire role, and the whole everyone's got a price, and shoving $100 bills in his opponent's mouths at the end of the match. And I mean, even Coco Beware, even just kind of like dancing around with a flapping his wings type of deal, just even that was fun. But Red Rooster, Terry Taylor, I don't know, he just kind of bothered me. I never hated on Terry Taylor, but he was never like, front and center main event. Oh my God, I love Terry Taylor type of guy to me. So, but Terry Taylor turns on Sam Houston. Didn't really know Sam Houston, so do I really care? Not necessarily. King Haku. He does have a fantastic robe. The one thing I think they did really well with King of the Ring, whoever you got as King of the Ring, whether it's Duggan, Owen Hart, Bret Hart, Haku, etc. I think Steve Austin won King of the Ring, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Mabel. Hate it or love it, I don't know. I love Mabel as freaking King of the Ring winner. I was a Mabel fan. I know people didn't like him. Thought it was brute force. I know Undertaker used to sit there and like complain about him, like because during like what was it, a battle royal, or maybe it was a Royal Rumble, and like he squashed somebody and like hurt someone really bad during a Royal Rumble match. Because when you got that amount of people in a Rumble match, and space is limited, and he squashed somebody and they didn't have time to prepare because it was unexpected. But still, man, like I like Mabel. I liked him a lot. So, and I think some of those matches, like Diesel versus Mabel, two big guys, come on. To me, that was fun. Like, how could you be a fan of wrestling and not enjoy Diesel versus Mabel? But Nash, he always got a lot of hate for being a bad wrestler or bad champion. I think a lot of the hate that goes Nash's way is the fact that, he pinned a legend and Bob Backlund in like 2 seconds. But come on, I mean, do you blame him for that? Or do you blame whoever scripted that stupid match? I mean, it was a horrible match. It was a horrible way to take the belt off Bob Backlund. Come on. I mean, as a kid, I thought that was the stupidest thing ever. They could have had a really fun match, but, it is what it is. But I hate these damn ice creams. Every single time I see this darn magazines, or every time I see these advertisements in one of these magazines, I always get freaking hungry for these darn ice cream cones. God, I want these so bad. I hate them because I can't ever have them. I think I talked about it before. There is actually somebody on Etsy who actually can like 3D print, these actual ice cream cones. And I just think that this would be so much fun to kind of like put these on display, as part of the collection. But if you actually go on Etsy and were to buy just one of these, I mean, the seller, I think they want like, what, $50 or something? $40, some crazy. I mean, even at $30 a piece, I mean, there's what, a dozen here? six, yeah, there's a dozen. So even at 30 bucks a pop, you're looking at $360 plus shipping, taxes. I mean, you're probably going to come out of pocket, let's say $450 for some 3D printed looking ice cream sandwiches. Well, not really sandwich. Well, they're kind of sandwiches. Yeah, I'm like, for display pieces, I mean, they look nice, but that's all they are. They're going to be display pieces. And it's going to bother you because every single day you come down and look at them, it's just going to make you hungry and mad that you can't have them. Imprinted with your favorite superstar. Crisp, delicious cookie. Creamy vanilla ice cream. Thick chocolate flavored coating. Ugh. Damn you. WWF interview. A talk with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Still one of my favorite scenes. I can't remember if it was late 90s, probably early 2000s. Him and Doink the Clown. Matt Osborne, aka Matt Bourne. They were in like a gymnasium, I don't know where it was located, but they were having like a little match, and obviously freaking Bourne was pissed off of some matchup that happened like 20 years prior. And man, talk about a freaking grudge, holding on to a grudge. But back when they're part of the Rat Pack with Ted DiBiase, Jim Duggan, and Matt Bourne, and something happened. I think Matt Bourne got into it like with the fan, probably punched the fan in the face, like broke his eye socket or something. Something with the fan, I believe, and probably like AWA, and maybe Jim Duggan didn't have his back or something. I forget the whole story that went down with that, but they were in like one of these little territory matches. Like I said, very small area, small gym, small indie circuit matchup, small amount of fans, and they come out of the dressing room, whatever. They're in the ring, and like friggin' Matt Bourne kicks him in the nuts. Friggin' Duggan just looks at him like, "You want to work?" He's all pissed off. I mean, you just kicked me in the nuts. I'm gonna be pissed too. Doink or Matt Bourne, he just looks at him like, He just walks out of the ring, man. Just walks away through the crowd. I'm like, well, that was a freaking waste. Duggan, he's another one of those guys, man. Just never really got a championship opportunity in the WWF, man. He was vying for like the Intercontinental title. I mean, I think he was going up against like Shawn Michaels and trying for the title here and there, but I mean, he was never like, I don't think he was ever a legitimate contender to ever win. But he goes to WCW, and I think he beats Steve Austin in like 2 seconds to win the WCW title. I don't know how long. I mean, I wasn't really watching WCW, so I don't know how long that actually lasted. And I heard some rumor, or I saw some video or something where somebody threw a WCW belt into the trash can or something. Again, I wasn't following WCW, so I don't know that whole story, what that was all about. But like, he dug the WCW belt out of the trash, and that made him champion or something. Again, I don't know that story. Someone who actually watches WCW will have to actually fill me in on what that was all about. But I mean, is that why like Vince McMahon and like all these people are like so like gung-ho about stripping people of their championship belt before they go to another promotion? because they're so worried about their belts being thrown in the trash and somebody else becoming, I mean, stupid. I don't understand that. To me, to this day, I don't understand that concept. If you are a WWF champion, how are you able to take a WWF championship belt to another promotion? If you are an NWA champion, you can't go to WWF and still be NWA champion. I mean, it's like, if I am senior procurement manager at Raytheon, I can't get hired by Lockheed Martin and be senior procurement manager, right? Now, if I am hired by Lockheed Martin and my title is senior procurement manager, that is a different story. But I just can't go there with the exact same title. Now, if I was hired by Lockheed Martin as a HR specialist, guess what? I'm an HR specialist. Because that's the title, the job title I was hired for. So, the same thing applies here. It doesn't matter if you were a friggin' heavyweight champion at this promotion. So I'm always dumbfounded by that concept of, taking a heavyweight title with you. If you're a heavyweight champion and your contract with the company is over, guess what? The title belt is forfeited and you now have to give it back to the company, etc. At least that's how I look at it. But I'm also not the smartest person in the world, so I don't know how all of this, how the semantics work with professional wrestling, so. Alright, Hulkster. Always an awesome poster. Hogan seeks new challenges. Well, during this era, he was working on a new film, so. Alright, Bossman. Bossman is new threat to Hulk. His awesome size above ranks him as a top contender in the ring. Absolutely. Do I want to read WWF trivia? Nah. That's fine. Do I want to go through the catalog? I don't think the catalog ever changes. Oh, I stand corrected. The catalog has changed. You know what? These foam belts, we may have actually had some of these foam belts. In the 90s, we actually had two of these foam belts. They were white, and I think we had they were both like the heavyweight belt. So it's kind of funny. So obviously, I had just the Watson kids, not the Garcias, obviously, but just talking about the Watson kids. There were four of us, one sister, and then the three brothers. And so my mom, she probably bought two or three belts. I'm gonna say two because I don't even remember having two. But there was a white heavyweight title belt, right? And at one point, one of these side plates fell off. So since we had two of the white heavyweight belts, we used the one that we had both plates on both sides as a heavyweight belt, and the one that had the plate falling off on one side, or it could have been both sides, but I'm going to say one side, we used as the Intercontinental belt. So, of course, our older brother Richard was always heavyweight champion, asshole, because he was always the bigger one and the heavier one, so, he was always able to always beat us. Because he was heavier, darn butthole always put us in the freaking sharpshooter. And of course, once he freaking puts us in the sharpshooter, there's no getting out of that. And I don't know, man. I think the rest of us, we kind of went back and forth with the Intercontinental belt. And some of the kids around the neighborhood, same thing. I think very sparingly did we go back and forth with the heavyweight belt, but the Intercontinental belt kind of like swap back and forth on a consistent basis. I know, like when Richard's friends, the older kids, like when they would come over, they would wrestle. Like they would swap out the belts, but again, very, very sparingly. But I might buy some of these belts again just for nostalgic sake. Again, I never had any of these different color belts outside the white ones, but I might get some of these just for the collection and for nostalgia. Let's see. Do I want to get any of the Hulkamania shirts? You know what? I might go for a shirt or two. What were these going for? $13 back in the day. Today they're probably selling for like $300. What does it say? 50% cotton, poly blend. Not for me. Maybe the dog, because that's pretty darn cool. Oh shoot, do I need the Hogan teddy bear? You know what? If you could find one with the belt and headband, again, in great condition, I'm pretty sure if you find that on eBay today, that darn thing probably sells for probably close to $1,000. I might be overestimating, but with sellers, you never know. You never know. I could go for some of these t-shirts, but like outside of eBay, where would you even find t-shirts like these, man? It would be nice if there was like some vintage shop that you could go to that would actually sell a lot of this old stuff. But like eBay and Mercari, Etsy, really like the only places I would even know to even begin shopping for a lot of this stuff. But a lot of these t-shirts, I wouldn't mind buying some of the stuff. That actually put them in picture frames and, probably hang them up on the wall somewhere. Obviously not down here because there's no space, but maybe upstairs in one of the spare bedrooms. When I do my live shows, have them on display in the background. Some posters. Because like that Ultimate Warrior t-shirt, for example. Let me go back a couple pages. You know what? If I didn't frame that, I would rock the hell out of that. That's awesome. So probably the Warrior. I mean, that one I would definitely go for. Maybe the Jake Roberts. Bundy, maybe. Bam Bam, possibly. Bruce would be a possibility. Honky would probably be a possibility. Animal's a little bit too plain. Macho Man's a little bit too plain, but just because it's Macho Man, possibly. Did I see all of these? Yes, I did. The Bolsheviks. And I don't know why I have such a hard time pronouncing their names. Volkov and Zukov. At least this guy's got an awesome Epic Toys figure. Nikolai, you put on a few pounds. Right on. Sergeant Strickland, it look like you're shedding here. Anybody that's seen any of my past videos, you kind of know what I'm talking about with that one. I'm not going to rag on Sergeant Strickland again. But oh, God. But you guys think that George Steele's a hairy man? If you guys met Staff Sergeant Strickland, trust me, he puts George Steele to shame. That's all I'm going to say, man. I'm not going to embarrass that man anymore. Yeah, I definitely got to get me an LGN custom with Greg Valentine in yellow. I got to get me a couple of customs, one with him all in yellow, and one with him in his Hasbro black and yellow boots. And I am noticing that these 88 magazines, especially the last few that I've gone through, are like crazy long, especially in comparison to the earlier magazines. Alright, Big Boss Man. I give him a hard time. That's what's up. Big Boss Man puts opponents in solitary. That was always fun. That's another thing that I have always enjoyed. Not only with the $1 Million Man stuffing dollar bills or $100 bills in opponents' throats, or Undertaker's, throwing people in body bags after, he defeats them. But Boss Man handcuffing his opponents to the ropes. I always thought that was always fun, man. So, things like that, I thought that was like crazy fun. Am I remembering correctly? Did he used to beat up his opponents after he handcuffed them to the ropes? I kind of remember him taking his nightstick and whooping people's butts afterwards. The Hulkster and Macho Man hit the gym. Alrighty. We're winding down to the last couple of pages. And we are almost done. So, this is another reason why I kind of feel like these are just editor written notes and wasn't actually written or said by the actual wrestlers, because in the 2005, 2010, 2015, whatever it was era, whenever you see shoot interviews with Bad News Brown, Bad News Allen, he always talks about not giving one iota about being heavyweight champion, Intercontinental champion, etc. He just wanted to come in, do his job, get paid, go home to his family, what have you, right? So if that meant putting someone over, he put someone over. He didn't care about winning. He just wanted to do his job and get paid. That's what it was all about. supporting his family. So when I see, stuff like this, why I deserve a title shot. So did Bad News Brown actually write this article? Now, years later, we could say, well, he was bullshitting, and maybe a title shot would have actually been more important to him. Because, let's be honest, if you're a champion, that means more money in your pocket. So, absolutely, it would have been more financially relevant for him to be champion. But at the same time, I still kind of feel like that might be written by some editor and not necessarily by the wrestlers themselves. Food for thought. Caught in the act. Big Boss Man checks up on the inmate at Cobb County Jail. SummerSlam 88. Were you there when the Mega Powers met the Mega Bucks? Wrestling Spotlight. Is that another type of magazine I gotta start collecting, possibly? Maybe. I might consider it. Alright, not a bad magazine. Not a bad one at all. So far, definitely one of my favorites. Well, guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in this week. I will talk to you all in the comments, and I will see you for next week's magazine review. Thanks, everybody.